Upa with choke defense. This is when my partner reaches in the collar to go for a cross choke, or really anytime he puts his hand on my body or near my neck, okay? So the farther over he puts this, the easier it's gonna be, but we can still do this as long as his hand is not on the mat, on this side of my body, okay? If I'm taking him this way. So if I'm rolling this way, ideally his arm is over here, it's easier to retain, but I can still do it as long as the hand's not on the mat. I don't have to have the arm drag all the way to the side. So, the traditional way to kind of show this move, we're gonna block the knee and trap the foot. I bring my feet in close so I have a lot of Upa power. Okay, he goes nice and deep in the collar here. Okay, really kind of takes his posture away. I come over top and trap, and then I either grab the material here, and this is generally how it's shown, or just cup the tricep if there's nothing to grab. And then I make this big Upa, look over my shoulder, press through, and then block so that he can't complete the cross choke. Okay, if I don't block here, he finishes, boom, and I'm done. So, the issue that I have with the traditional way to show this is when I trap this foot and then proceed to Upa, I lose the foot. So you'll notice when I make this big pressing Upa movement, it really moves him where I want to go, but it's hard to keep his leg trapped a lot of times, okay? And so when I do this big pressing Upa, I'll lose his foot and he can just slide that knee right up. So I Upa and I lose the foot, okay? And so to do this effectively, I have to keep this arm down here, okay? And so now if I Upa and roll, he can't take that leg out. And it becomes a pretty effective move. The issue is I want his posture just as much as I want his leg. So if Jared postures up really big here, okay, even if I trap his leg, he can start to counterweight his body by moving his body over there, and now I can't press him this way, okay? So what I like to do is, instead of keeping this arm down here, I like to come clear up to the shoulder and really pull his shoulder the way I want him to go, okay? The issue is I no longer have anything blocking his leg. So if I go to do this, because my arm isn't blocking, he'll slide that knee out like we talked about. Okay, and I effectively kind of put myself into S-mount. So, in order to fix that and free up this arm to be able to pull and break his posture, I need to trap his leg in a different way than we're used to doing. So what I like to do, I'm still gonna start with the elbow in the thigh, in the knee, okay? I'm gonna put both my feet onto his, okay? Double the chances of retaining that foot. And now here's the real trick. Instead of a pressing, lifting Upa, like we've generally been taught, I'm actually gonna press my hips that way. So instead of up, I'm gonna go towards you. And so by doing that, okay, I'm loading his weight up onto this knee so that he can no longer move it. If all of his weight is on this leg, it's glued to the mat. And by gluing his knee to the mat with his own weight, it frees up this arm to do what I want it to do. So, trapping the knee, both feet come over. I'm gonna walk those in nice and tight. And now I'm gonna press my hips more horizontally than I am vertically, okay? So Once I have his weight loaded up, I can come to the shoulder and really pull him into that hole, and then I just complete the move as normal. So to show that from a couple different angles so you can really see what's going on here, we'll go from here. Okay, he's got his arm on me. I'm trapping just like we normally do. I'm blocking like we normally do. I'm going to take both feet and trap his foot. And I'm really going to press my hips sideways. And you can see how this really contorts his body. There's a ton of power there. So I'm taking my head and pulling it over here, and I'm pressing my hips over there. So I'm really making a big C out of my body. Pressing the hips, turning the head. Okay? And so if his head is on this side, I have to move him clear over there. And that takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort and a lot of big, powerful upa. Okay? So the more I can initially start with my head on this side of his head, the more he already is where I want him to go. Okay? If I can get my head directly under his, or if he's neutral here and I can turn my head over here, he's already halfway to where I need him to go. Okay? So we're turning the head, we're loading his weight up onto that leg, and you can see he's already about to fall. But now this arm is free to really give me just a little bit more oomph, blocking, regaining my posture. Okay, so it's a lot of different take. It's a big change from what you're probably used to doing on this. But in my opinion, and I think the opinion of everyone I've shown it to, it makes a huge difference. I'm not lifting up my hips and taking the trap off of the foot so that he can slide that up. So I maintain his foot trapped and I'm just pressing into that. So by trapping the foot here, I'm not allowing him to slide his knee high. So when I lift here, I expose the foot. And so when I take the lift portion out of this move, I can stay on that foot better. That bind on the foot is what traps the knee in place so that as my hips press into it, it loads his weight effectively. Really turning my head, looking where I'm going, and pulling that shoulder to the mat. As I come up, blocking here, I can hide the collar, look away from the choke, and I'm really looking to regain my posture to avoid that choke and other attacks. So another little detail here that will make this extra effective, you can see this arm here. If Jared just lifts his arm up here just so you can see, I'm using this elbow to help drive him across. So as I set this move up, I'm grabbing the shoulder here and pulling him to the mat, but I'm also pressing with this elbow here. And so when we combine that pulling of the shoulder and pressing of the elbow right here, it really helps twist their body more effectively. If he can keep his body level to the mat, it's a lot harder for me to roll him to his back, right? And so if I just give a pull here, it's probably sufficient with this move because we've set it up so well. But by pressing in here, it's gonna help prevent him from trying to hunker his weight down back onto this side. Basically counterbalance, okay? By blocking with that arm there and really driving with that elbow, he can't position his weight back this way because it's blocked. Okay. Okay, so just from another angle here, we're really focused on what the legs are doing so you can see. I'm trapping the arm and blocking the knee, and then both feet come right over. So the traditional way we kind of have here, ideally we kind of inside this, and we give a big high upa, and you can see how I completely lose my opponent's foot there. Okay, and so by trapping with both feet, I can press my hips into his leg, and then as I upa, I'm going to turn my knees and hips that direction and really press into it. So I'm really making a big C out of my body here. And keeping those feet planted firmly in place in order to keep his foot tracked. So my feet come over, 1, 2, and the more I can kind of walk those feet up into my butt, the better. I'm going to just shift my butt sideways to put some pressure, and you should be feeling that leg bind up. From here, I'm going to turn into it and press, okay? And you'll feel you almost just pop right up into guard. So, without a body here, just from a couple angles, trapping that foot, I got my arm blocking the knee. I'm going to press my hips sideways initially. Once I feel that leg tighten up, I'm going to turn and really press into it. So you can see it's not a lifting movement like this anymore. It's sideways and then pressing in. Stepping over, coming up into guard.